Hello everyone, I'm Rosphere, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the drums meta in Classic Burning Crusade while killing some Horde bots that are trying to get into ZG. And you'll know that they're Horde bots because of the way that they res and the way that they play the game. Uh, like this one here, you'll see in a second that it will res further back than its actual body, and it will do that every single time. So it actually puts itself further away from ZG because it just reses a second that it sees that it can res. The bot's pretty dumb. And yeah. So, and if you do this long enough on pretty much any server, you'll end up with like an army of bots that are trying to get into ZG. And yeah, it's actually really funny. So, with that being said, getting on to the drums topic. So, I think that it's going to affect more than just the hardcore guilds. And most people are saying that it's going to affect just the hardcore guilds, where it will the most there, but it's going to affect everybody in a very similar way because Blizzard, all they really did was change the radius so that it's an 8-yard radius. Now, I don't know what the original radius was, but it's an 8-yard radius, so it's pretty small. And they're like, everybody's going to have to stack up. So it's going to make it harder to use, and less people want to use it, which not really true. People will just mark specific people in a group so that you have to stack on those people, or say within certain areas of the boss room, you'll have to stack in those areas. For to reapply the buff. So it's really just going to create this meta where you have to go to a certain area every 30 seconds in the fight. It's not going to complicate things too much. Within a couple raids, it's going to become second nature, and you're not even going to realize you're doing it. So, with that being said, the drums change doesn't change anything about it, and they've said that they want to keep the original feel of drums in Classic Burning Crusade because the reason why they did that was because leatherworking was basically useless before that, and almost nobody had it. So, sure, I mean, I guess that's a good reason, sort of, but not really. If they wanted to keep the original feel of Classic Burning Crusade with how the drums worked, they could have literally just changed something super small by making it so that everybody can use drums and you don't have to have leatherworking to use it. And that would solve the problem of everybody having to have leatherworking while also keeping the feel of drums in the game. And they wouldn't have to make any changes to drums at that point. They could have left the radius the same, and they could have just, yeah, just it doesn't make any sense what they're doing, right? They could have just made it so everybody could use drums. It creates a market for leather workers. It creates, it keeps the feel that they want in the game. It basically solves all the problems without creating any problems, because the problem is not that everybody has to use drums, it's that everybody has to have leather working to use drums. That's the problem, right? There's treating a symptom and not the actual sickness as they usually do. And I don't really know why Blizzard does this. I just think that the game developers are not the best there anymore. But yeah, with that being said, that would be a simple solution. And they also, I believe they made a change to greater drums. We don't have this confirmed, but we do have some testing on some servers that we don't talk about, private servers. I believe that one of the guilds ripped the client from the beta and basically did some testing on drums because if you rip the client, you can boost yourself to 70 and then spawn in items within your own private server. And I believe that they probably did that on their own server to test drums, and they found out that the greater drums are actually going to be raid wide, and that creates a whole nother set of issues because people are like, oh, that's cool, because then at least by the middle of the expansion, then people will only need 4 leather workers and people can re-roll to the other professions that they want. That's not entirely true, because I do believe that the buffs actually overlap, and there's more than just the haste buff from drums. I don't remember what they all are, but you're going to have people, multiple different groups rotating multiple different buffs at that point to maintain more of the drums buffs. So it creates an even larger issue where you'll probably want, instead of 20 people, you'll want 25 people rotating the buff. So that's a huge issue. It's not going to be fun for anybody. It's going to make it way worse. It's not going to be good. So I don't know why Blizzard did that. It was just a bad idea. So yeah, again, we don't have that confirmed. That's just kind of what we're seeing from people testing, quote unquote. So yeah, with that being said, I do think this is going to have a large effect on actual small guilds and more casual guilds, I should say, because it's very similar to the world buff situation where we ended up with everybody, even the casual guilds, forcing their members to get world buffs. And there's a very, very good reason for this, and it's something very simple. Let's say you have 20 people in your raid that are min-maxing, they're trying really hard, and they're getting all the world buffs, they're getting all their consumes, they have all their enchants, they have everything they could possibly have to maximize their player character performance. And then you have another half of the raid that maybe sometimes they get world buffs, most of them have their enchants, they don't always bring consumes. They're just kind of haphazardly showing up, and sometimes they're there, sometimes they perform well. Most of the time they're just kind of average or shit. Even in classic World of Warcraft, they're not the best players. So you have a group of good players and a group of shit players. What do you think happens in this situation? The group of good players become resentful of the group of shit players who aren't putting in the same amount of effort that they are to min-max and maximize their character performance. And slowly over time, if the guild does not start doing something about the players that are not putting in the effort and replacing those people, or telling them that they have to step it up and get all their world buffs, get all their enchants, get all the consumes, and they have to bring them every raid, and they don't actually enforce this, even in casual guilds, the players that are actually trying hard are going to leave. They're not going to stay and carry those bad players forever. They'll slowly start leaving the guild. Like, you'll see one or two people leave, another one or two people leave, another one or two people leave over the course of time. And slowly they'll be replacing players. They'll be replacing those players, but generally the people that come into a guild like that are not going to stick around again for very long if they're one of those good players. And if they're a bad player, they're just going to sit there. It's basically like a filter for shit. So you end up with a filter where you're filtering out all the good players and keeping the bad players in your guild. And over time, it will eventually kill the guild because you won't be able to raid, right? Like, you just won't be able to get anything done. So drums are going to be the same way, because you're going to end up with a situation again where most people or the people that go respec or re-roll leatherworking, get their drums, they have all their consumes, they have all their enchants, all this stuff. It basically just replaces world buffs, right? So if you have this group of people that is getting their leatherworking drums and a group of people that is not, those people that have the drums are going to be really upset with the people who do not, because it's just again, and it creates a filter for shit. So it filters out the good players, because the good players generally are going to put more effort into their character. Not always, but generally are going to put more effort into their character because they care more about how they perform in the raid. And they're not going to stick around and carry people who are bad. So even if you're in a casual guild and you have 5 or 10 people in a 25 man that are, wanting to rotate drums and, that kind of thing, generally they're going to leave the guild. And you're going to be left with a situation where you can't recruit people, you can't get good people into the guild. You end up not being able to kill bosses. Like, you'll end up in a situation where you can't kill bosses that you used to be able to kill. It's like, I've been in a situation like this in the past. It's not fun. It's not a good way to run the guild. So you have to, even in a casual guild in a situation like this, you end up having to enforce stupid rules like everybody has to have leatherworking, everybody has to have drums, because we're all going to rotate drums. And yeah, so it just creates a massive issue where leatherworking is required. And if you don't have leatherworking, you're probably going to have a hard time getting into a guild, because guilds don't want to recruit the shit players who aren't going to put in the effort, right? Like, it's dumb, and Blizzard is creating this problem without even realizing it. I don't even know if they realize what they're doing, because they don't really think about it fully. And most people haven't really connected those dots either, where they're just like, oh, the hardcore guilds are going to enforce it. If you want to be in a good guild, you're probably going to have leatherworking. It's like, at the start, more than likely it's going to be like that, but slowly over time, even the small guilds, the more casual guilds, just like in classic WoW, they slowly over time, more and more of them required you to have world buffs, to the point where now you can't get into a guild if you're not willing to get full consumes, not willing to get full world buffs and stuff like that. Even if you're not clearing Nax, right? Like, if you're not even clearing Nax, you're not going to get into a guild without, having those things. So it really sucks that Blizzard's doing this. I hope they make a change, like just making it so that everybody can use the drums, because then it creates a need for leather workers to be making drums, so it creates a need for people to be leather workers, and it's a gold making thing for leather workers, obviously. And at the same time, it removes the need for everybody to be leather working, so you don't have to enforce that rule within your guild. It just becomes another consumable that you're required to bring to raid, which is not a huge issue. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the drums meta. It kind of sucks. It's going to create a lot more problems than it's worth. And yeah, with that being said, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.